Hi, Geoff.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
you're a bit blurry today.
Yeah, I'll try not to be so blurry.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, I
Okay.
found my old cash book
Wow.
from 1983.
What's in
So
it?
it's got some, well, not a fantastic amount, but some tapes when I did things. And there is one thing which I'd forgotten, which is interesting, called Oric Sub. I think this was Tansoft had subscribers.
Yeah,
A mailing list of people,
yeah.
and I think I created them a program to handle the storage of people
Oh, yeah.
for who the customers were. Customer
Okay.
list, maybe a mailing list.
Oh, yeah.
I'd completely forgotten that.
Yeah, something not published after that, but for Tansoft.
Yeah, just for Tansoft to use, and it may have not been on an Oric. It may
Oh,
have
yeah.
been on a computer that they used. I think they had an apricot, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
That's quite interesting there.
I like Apricot's computers. That's
Yes, they had
interesting
floppy disks.
systems. Was it
Quite
like
interesting.
an Apricot F1 or F10 or something like that? You
You know,
don't remember?
I don't remember. I must have programmed it in BASIC, I'm thinking. I don't think it was an Oric program, but it
No.
was for Tansoft to use. Yeah.
Y-
Sorry, I did find a reference to what was it called? Oh, the home finance conversion. Is that one we talked about? The home, was there a home finance program?
I don't know if we
Oh.
did talk about that. It was
Hmm.
amongst some serious software that you programmed. Oric
Hmm.
Base, Oric Finance.
Sure. It says modifications, conversions and modifications. Hmm. I'm not sure.
So,
It's hard,
so,
isn't it?
so were you supposed
Yeah.
to plan your budget with this on your Oric?
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I have no memory, but it's listed here. So it must have existed.
And I read somewhere in a previous interview you made some years ago, there is something we didn't talk about. You said in this interview that you began to work on a Boulder Dash like game for
Hmm.
the Oric, which you didn't finish because I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Do you
think
remember?
what happened, I remember doing it, but I think I got through to test the basic mechanic because I think when I started doing Boulder Dash for the MSX,
Yeah.
my big experience at that time was the Oric, so I could test out code on there, quite quickly. So I don't think it got beyond, what Boulder Dash is like with the earth and the boulders
Yeah.
and the little man Rockford walking. So I think I was testing the logic of there are kind of rules that follow in Boulder Dash of if there's a boulder above you and so on, then it doesn't crush you. But
Okay.
if it falls on you from a two above, then it does, and that sort of thing.
It was more a test for you to go on with the MSX
Hmm.
version
Yeah,
than
I
a
think so.
real
That's my
game.
memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have liked to have done an Oric version, and I could have done, but it didn't get to the full development of all the maps and so on. But it had the logic of the control
Yeah.
because at that time I'd worked so much on the Oric that I could draw the sprites and draw handle the control. So I think it was like a first stab at working out the logic before I got into the MSX side, and because
All right.
that was quite different with the Z80, and all the graphics were quite different and so on.
So here is the next question. Do you have something left at home about this period? Old
I'm
tapes? Or
I wish I did. What happened to my regret is when I lived in Ely,
yeah.
because I moved to Ely in 1986. I had to move to Milton Keynes some years later and didn't really want to. I just had so much stuff accumulated from many, many years, piles of paper and tapes. And so I'm afraid I hired a skip and
Uh,
a lot of things were thrown away
yeah.
because I just had too much stuff I hired a van to move. I didn't own that much that I needed a removal van, a lorry.
Yeah.
So I just hired a van and put all my positions in there. And I didn't want to make a lot of trips.
Yeah.
So I think I drove in my car a couple of times, and then I hired a van for the big stuff, and there were a lot of things left behind and thrown away, sadly. And that's, I think, the point where a lot of interesting things were sadly destroyed or,
Yeah,
lost
because
forever.
maybe at the time you didn't think that it was that important.
Yeah,
It was
this
the
is the
past.
trouble, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it wasn't that long ago at that point, I suppose,
Mm.
to be nostalgic about.
Yeah.
I'd been through a difficult time of work with quite poor, not much money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I kind of wanted to forget a lot of things and just move on.
So you
And I'd
didn't.
started with NSU and so on.
Yeah. So you didn't even keep one Atmos or Oric computer. Nothing.
I think by that time I'd probably lost the Oric anyway. By this time, I don't remember throwing it away. My parents inherited a lot of my old computers because they
Yeah.
were game players, so they would have. That's where my Commodore 64 went to, and Spectrum, because I had most of these computers and maybe MSX and so on. I don't remember what happened to the Oric and the Atmos. Maybe thrown out, sadly. But of course, today would have been valuable. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But
And
it was like a halfway point between then and now, and I had to, had limited space and just wanted to, you can't keep everything, can you, in life?
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much of it.
Especially when you move and you have to make choices. Was your Oric-1 or Atmos a bit special? Was it modded in a way, or what kind of
Um,
extensions
oh,
did you
well,
have?
I think I had two drives. I had an Epson printer,
Yeah,
but I think I did have an Oric printer before that, maybe to test.
the
Yeah,
small one, MCP 40,
yeah, possibly.
with
The
little
pen.
pens. Yeah, little
Little
pens.
pens,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I remember having two of the floppy drives, which were were they CF1s? Was that what they're called? The metal shutter, and
Was it the official ones? Was it from
the
Oric or?
yeah, for the Oric. They were the same discs used in the Amstrad.
Oh yeah, the 3 inch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, but
And I think that's sadly that's what happened to some of those discs because they were quite expensive. I think some of those discs were used for Amstrad later.
yeah, because at some point there was a penury of these discs because of Amstrad. So everybody was
Mm.
looking for
Oh yeah.
3 inch discs. So if
Yes,
you,
yeah, but they're expensive, weren't they? I think, yeah,
yeah.
and hard to find. Everything was very expensive, wasn't it? In the 1980s, when you think in comparison of now and the costs of things. So it's a sad, sad to say that. What does survive are letters from people because they were often personal. Sometimes I thought they were nice to keep. So I do have letters from Tansoft, say, letters from Paul. Paul would always be quite humorous in his letters, be quite jokey.
Yeah.
Like if he was giving me a royalty check, he would say that this is the absolute last demand that you can make of us, as though I was blackmailing him. He always makes some joke about it. But so I've kept the mail, and that's quite interesting to look at.
I have a question about Paul because I saw one line somewhere on the internet that's a Rat Splat game. Do you remember this one?
That was by John, wasn't it?
Yeah, John Marshall.
John Marshall, yeah.
You are credited on the tape inlay. And
Okay.
the tape inlay says concept by John Marshall, Paul Kaufman, and Geoff Phillips, and rat drawing, donc illustration, by Caroline Gronveld.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a line on the website saying that surely there is a good clues that the illustration represent Paul Kaufman. Do you remember this illustration?
Oh, I see. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very much, isn't it? Yeah. I think that probably. Yeah, that's good
So
info.
it's like inside jokes in Tansoft.
Yeah, maybe. But I think isn't there a guy called Cresta Crester Cranswick or something. I'm thinking maybe he looks a bit like him.
I don't know.
He sort of took over Oric-1 later on. Yeah.
Well, you tell me. I don't know.
I couldn't say for sure. That does look a bit like Paul, though. Yeah, I think he may be having a bit of a joke there. But as for my involvement, I think, well, like I said before, I think we probably, when we were discussing projects, we probably all sat around a table and threw in ideas of what would happen and so on.
Yes.
But John was, very competent programmer, perhaps still is, and also could do the art, I think, quite well. Yeah, I don't think I had too much involvement in that.
Do you have something to say about the illustrations? The tape inlays. Who made them? In fact, there was a artist hired from outside, or was it people from the inside drawing stuff?
I don't think we had any formal artists, so I think they would have probably been done by the manufacturer of
the tapes.
The tapes, but certainly Caroline did some art, as you know, for us, like the Trouble in Store, picture of the shop that's supposed to be, and the flapping bird and so on. And we were very crude in the way that these were done, because she would have drawn it on graph paper, or I traced it on graph paper, and then I would have just read the bytes in from the the squares of the graph.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get used to doing that after a while. You can see the bit patterns, and you just type in straight as hexadecimal.
Yeah,
just go back and check it. That's the old way.
That was a bit my next question about the flapping bird in the Atmos demo tape. What's the story behind? Because when I saw that on the demo tape, I was, wow, it's incredible. It's like an animation like this on an 8-bit computer. It was, it was a tour de force.
That's nice that people liked it. I think we had we wanted to show that we could draw, a nice animation, and that was maybe a chance for Caroline to show something that she could draw. So she probably did it on like a flip book type of animation that you could draw, and then we went through and traced it painstakingly and on graph paper, and then tried to align it the best we could. I don't. There probably wasn't that many frames to it, were there? But
no, 10 maximum, maybe.
Yeah.
But
it's an incredible amount of work to put something like that in.
Do you remember if it was like high resolution or character redefinition?
Well, that's a question. I guess we could look at the code to see.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but
I can't remember offhand. I think it was done as high res. I don't think we did it as a character set. But I think maybe I'm wrong here. I think that was done as a bits of assembly, wasn't it? Maybe so we call out to assembly language.
Maybe because it's drawing fast. So
yeah. We wouldn't be able to draw it with the Oric basic commands, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It would be too slow. I think it would have to be. So I think I'm right in saying the demo tape the Atmos tape is a combination of basic and assembly language to do some things.
It's interesting because it's very different from the Oric-1 demo tape, like we discussed about. Because at the time you were learning the computer at the same time that you were developing the demo tape.
That's actually the first thing in my book here, April 1983. That at least being paid for the first demo tape for the Oric. But then there's a one later on which down to another version of
the demo tape.
Sorry, there's some. Yeah. But yeah, so it was kind of like a version 1, version 2, 3. And I'm not sure which. I guess version 3 was probably the Atmos one. Maybe version 1 never saw the light of day.
Because I remember that I've read somewhere that for the Oric-1 demo tape, there are versions with the small race game at the end.
Oh yeah.
And some not.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe they tagged that on later. I don't know. I think that was that Paul's game?
I think the first one was Paul's game, and there is another race game in the Atmos demo tape.
Right.
Which is quite nice. It's called Driver, and scrolling is
Yeah.
from the top, so it's more impressive than the first game from Paul.
Yeah. So I suppose we must have used the phrase cobbled together different things from different places to give something. I suppose it's a pretty good idea, really, because it gives a more kind of an idea of what you can do in total. Not the specific things of drawing a line or drawing text, but and now here is a game. Here's what you can do.
Yeah.
We would never have had enough time to do it as well as we might have done. So I suppose Paul was up against the deadline of releasing a demo tape to be sold with the Oric.
Yeah.
And then maybe later on there was a chance for another batch of Orics to have a better one.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, could have been several versions then.
It's interesting about the demo tapes because they were delivered with the computer, so you can impress, or people having just bought the computer could discover the features.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the demo tapes were used a lot in shops.
Yes, I was going to say I think we wanted something, because we went to different shows to demonstrate the Oric. They wanted something to maybe sit in the corner to continuously run to show something, rather than just sitting there with an empty screen saying ready, to have something cycling through. So and then people get attracted to it, and see what's going on.
So you had that in mind when you were developing the demo tape?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the part of it, to show as you say, in shops, but at shows, and just as something to people, to catch people's eye. You look and see, what's going on there? Yeah, that looks interesting.
Do you remember going to shows like this?
Yes, I certainly went to a few, and where Orpheus came from was one of these shows, and I did have a very distinct memory of being at a show for Tansoft.
Yeah.
And Paul and Kathy were there, and we went off behind the stand to have a chat about setting up Orpheus. So that's where that first evolved. We might have talked about it before, but that's where we got together and talked about how it would work, what we would do.
Okay.
So that's but we did. I did definitely. I went to quite a few. I think even before Tansoft, because they were very interesting events, weren't they? And I don't know if you saw any of them, but it would be where the Spectrum was launched, or the whatever latest console. So they were always interesting events to go to. And I think Tansoft would always the major ones. So I think we probably went to 4 or 5 of those kind of shows.
In England?
In England, only went in England. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd never been abroad till I was in my 30s. It's very sad.
And then there one game there's several games we didn't talk about, but I prefer maybe to focus on the 8-bit era. And there is one game, it was Zombie for ZX Spectrum. So you made this conversion for ZX Spectrum, and I read somewhere that you said in the interview that you were a bit upset because you did whatever you could to put this version in a 48K in an original ZX Spectrum, and then on the box they said
128K.
Went to IKEA and needed.
Yeah, that's very annoying. Because I just spent so long, and if I'd have had 128K, I could have made it so much better, because I had to leave so many features out. I mean, not least of which the animation of the zombie. This wasn't the memory, and I was working out how to make the map, how to make the rooms draw in the most compact way by doing a series of line drawings, between A and B, and so there'd just be a long list of draw from here to here to here to here, just to make. And that just took so long. It was incredibly. If I'd had the memory, I could have just stored the images probably as run length encoding. Something simple. So that's just one of the annoying things. I'm pleased to see that on YouTube that it's reviewed favourably, but it's not brilliant, I'm sure. But it was originally an Atari ST game.
Yeah.
So it's a hard slog going from 16-bit to 8-bit in that kind of way.
Yeah, for me it's a tour de force. I mean, it was complicated to do, and you did it, and in a 48K. But the funny, you know, when I did the interview, I'll always put next to you illustrations of what we're talking about. So there will be, you know, the games, the boxes, and for the box of Zombie for the ZX Spectrum, it's not even written 128K needed. There is 64K needed, which is weird because the Spectrum there is. The Spectrum, it's 48 or 100.
Yeah. It's that. Yeah, that was an odd one. It doesn't even work, does it?
Yeah.
Oh well.
But do you remember someone asking you to intentionally put this game in a 48 Spectrum, or no?
Well, this was done indirectly through someone called Roger Taylor, who I did a lot of work with. He was based in Leicester. I can't remember his name now, the company name. But there would have been a brief, information requirements, that this is for the Spectrum 48K. That was quite clear, it wasn't. I didn't even raise the question, can I use the memory of a 128K? Which I think it was banked memory, wasn't it? So it was just that, this is 48K Spectrum game, and that was the end of it. So somebody took it in their head that it was not.
Yeah, it's more a marketing mistake afterwards.
Yes. I can only assume people who own 48K Spectrums would have looked at that and said, it won't work on my computer, This is 64K.
But at the same time, the year was 1990, so maybe there were more 128K Spectrum out there.
Yes, that's true. It was quite late on, wasn't it, for Spectrum games? It was getting quite late to be doing this kind of work, really. I did a few games towards the end of that sort of era.
It must have been one of the last Spectrum games published.
I suppose, yeah. I think things were moving, weren't they, I suppose people were buying Nintendos and early PCs and so on.
Atari ST and Amiga were still...
ST and Amiga, they were very strong. So I was doing things on the ST and the Amiga. I did European Championship 1992 on the Atari ST.
It's a soccer game?
A soccer game, yeah. And I did like a multi-game pack for the Atari ST. I can't think what it was called now, but I did one component part of that and the menu. I did bowling.
Oh, yeah?
So, 10-pin bowling.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite good. It came with table tennis and air hockey and darts.
Oh, yeah. So there were like 4 games in one package.
4 games in one pack. Yeah. And then there was a menu system that went between them. But I don't remember quite how I interfaced with the other programmers. It's a long time ago. I think one of the last ones that I did was Mighty Bomb Jack on the Commodore 64. That's what you already talked about.
Yeah, we talked about, and that was my next question. It's for Zombie. Was it like Mighty Bomb Jack that they didn't give you anything to work on except the X-dump, or was it more material?
I don't think I had any source code for Zombie. I had the Atari ST game, I think. I don't remember having any materials, but I don't think we often did get many things with that. Boulder Dash was an exception. They did give us source code, and I think I still have that somewhere, like a 5 1/4 floppy.
Oh yeah.
With the source code on. I thought that might be worth something one day. I had to look at it to understand some of the code to do with the placing of the earth and the boulders. There's an algorithm. It isn't done with a map. It's done by an algorithm.
Oh yeah.
It is quite interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So there wouldn't have been enough space on the Commodore to have all the maps that were in there. So it uses a pseudo-random algorithm to generate the earth and the boulders using a fixed seed. So it's always the same. But without that code, I wouldn't have been able to replicate the layout. It would have been different. So it's quite clever. Looking through the code, I couldn't work out where the maps were. You see, there didn't seem to be any data there. But it was done because it was done using, if you like, rules to say, how to draw
Yeah.
earth and boulders. And then there would be like a fixed table to say where the fixed sections were, the jewels perhaps in some cases, and some, start and end, would be coordinates. Go here, go here. It's quite interesting how that was done.
Yeah, because it's a quite gain of space, of memory space.
Yes, because even if you're doing it as tiles, one square is like 1 byte, I suppose. It was still quite a large area of, I don't know, maybe 100 by 50 or something. It all adds up if you've got multiple levels.
Okay, but for Zombie, you said that you only had the ST game, for example. But how do you know how it ends and the more complicated levels? Did you add a cheat to advance in the game?
That's a good question. Maybe there was some documentation. Maybe something was written down. Yeah, I think you're right. I must have had something, but I have no memory of it.
Yeah.
I just remember the laborious job of the graphics. Yes, as you say, of course, it was an adventure game of you must have this and then this happens and so on. So there must have been a walkthrough or something that I'd had. I don't think I worked it out from looking at the game on the ST.
It must have been impossible to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. As I said to you before, with Mighty Bomb Jet, all we had was a hex dump
crazy.
and the video. So all things are possible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I wasn't the only one who had to tear other people's code apart, see how things are done and working. It's just too long ago to remember details sometimes. It was a tough one.